My wife's name was Sarah. I need to say that first, not because you need context for a tragedy, but because grief has a way of erasing the person and leaving only the pain. And what comes next? It erases her even more. 5 months. That's how long ago she died. Car accident on the 405 at 6:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. An SUV ran a red light. She was alone. She was always alone on that drive home because she insisted on it. I'd offered 1,000 times to pick her up. 1,000 times she'd refused. I know why now, but I didn't then. The glasses sat on her nightstand for all 5 months. I couldn't throw them away. I couldn't pack up her things. I just let her room stay exactly as it was. The bed unmade. Her book face down on the pillow. The glasses in their usual spot, slightly crooked, one lens scratched. That scratch had bothered her. I remember her mentioning it maybe 3 weeks before. Just a casual thing. A mention over dinner. The lens was clear but scratched enough that light would catch it at certain angles. She'd put off getting them fixed. Work was busy. Life was busy. There was always next week. Then she died. And the glasses sat there. I don't know why it took me 5 months to pick them up. Grief isn't logical. Some days I couldn't look at the nightstand. Some days I sat there and held her pillow. I stopped sleeping in our bed. The couch became my bed. The guest room was too empty. The couch was empty in a different way. Active emptiness instead of haunted emptiness. But on a Tuesday morning, almost exactly 5 months later, which I didn't notice until later, I picked up the glasses. The house was quiet. That's the thing nobody tells you about grief. The silence is louder than the noise. I'd gotten used to it. I moved through the quiet like it was water. I picked up the glasses. They were lighter than I expected. I don't know why they would feel heavy, but grief makes you expect weight in everything. These were just wire and plastic. Just optical glass. Just an object. The scratch was worse than I remembered. I decided right then. I'd get them fixed. It was something. It was an action. It was a way to do something for her, even though she was gone. Even though she would never wear them again. Even though when I handed over these glasses to be fixed, I would be handing over one of the last physical things she'd touched regularly. That's what I told myself. That's what I believed. The glasses shop was called Clarity Optics. It was in a strip mall between a tax preparation office and a place that sold vape supplies, not a place you'd notice unless you were looking for it. But we'd been going there for 5 years. My wife had excellent vision. I have mediocre vision. The optometrist there was good. Her name was Dr. Patel. It was a Tuesday when I went in, just like the day Sarah died was a Tuesday. I try not to think about that. The owner was named Frank Delacroix. He'd gone to high school with my brother. They weren't close, but they knew each other. When Sarah started going to the shop, Frank remembered my brother, remembered me, and we developed the kind of friendly rapport that people who aren't quite friends but see each other regularly develop. He'd ask about my brother. I'd ask about his kids. He'd mention a good deal on frames. I'd say I'd think about it. Frank was behind the counter when I walked in. He looked up. His face did something I can't quite describe, a flicker, like he recognized something. But it wasn't surprise. It was more like confirmation, like I was the last piece of a puzzle sliding into place. I didn't think about that at the time. "Hey," he said. "Been a while." "Yeah," I said. "Needed to get something fixed." I placed Sarah's glasses on the counter. For a moment, Frank didn't touch them. He just looked at them. His hand was half extended but not quite reaching. Then he picked them up. He held them up to the light. He examined the scratch with his index finger, running it gently along the lens. "Scratched," he said. "Yeah, has been for a while." He put the glasses down and looked at me. Not at my eyes, through them. He was looking at something behind my eyes. It made my skin feel thin. "I can fix this," he said. "Shouldn't be a problem. Be ready tomorrow." "Great," I said. I turned to leave. "Wait." I turned back. Frank was staring at the glasses again. His jaw was working. I could see the muscle flexing near his temple. He reached up and ran his hand over his face like he was wiping away cobwebs. "These are from here?" he asked. "The prescription?" "I think so," I said. "We've been coming to Dr. Patel for a long time." "Sarah's glasses?" The way he said her name. It was different. It wasn't the way someone says a name they've heard mentioned. It was the way someone says a name they know in their body, a name they carry. "Yes," I said. "I need to do something," he said. "With the repair. I have a process. For lenses this specific. It'll take a bit longer. 2 days instead of tomorrow. Okay, I said, and you need to wait while I work on them, right now, today. It wasn't a question. I have stuff to do, I said. I can just come back. No. He was already coming around the counter. He was already picking up the glasses. I need you to wait. This is important. Something in his voice. Something in his face. I waited. Frank took the glasses into the back room. I could see his silhouette through the frosted glass panel in the door. He was moving quickly, doing something at a workbench that I couldn't see. The shop was small, maybe 12 feet by 16. There were frames on the walls. There were sample lenses in a display. There was a chair where you'd sit for an eye exam. There was the counter where I was standing. I didn't sit down. I stood there and looked at the frames. I wasn't really seeing them. I was thinking about Frank's face. I was thinking about the way he'd said my wife's name. After maybe 4 minutes, Frank came back out. You can go, he said. I thought, I need you to go. Don't ask questions. Just go home and wait. I'll call you when it's done. That's tomorrow. Late tomorrow. Frank, what's going on? Go home, he said. And there was something in his voice now, something scared. Go home and don't tell anyone you brought those glasses in. I should have asked questions. I should have made him explain. But there was something about his fear that infected me immediately. Grief had made me lonely. Fear made me obedient. I left. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the couch in the dark. The TV was on. Some show I wasn't watching. Just noise and light flickering across the ceiling. I could hear the house settling. I could hear the neighbor's dog. I could hear my own breathing, and I couldn't stop listening to it. Frank's words kept repeating. Don't tell anyone you brought those glasses in. Why would he say that? What did glasses need to be kept secret for? They were just glasses. They were just optical equipment used to correct vision. There was nothing secret about glasses. Millions of people wore them. Millions of people got them repaired. Unless, I didn't let myself finish that thought. But it was there, in the dark, in the settling house, in the space between my breaths. Unless there was something in the glasses. Not on them, not just the scratch, but inside them, something hidden, something that required secrecy, something that required Frank to warn me not to tell anyone. I got up off the couch. I went to the kitchen. I turned on the light and it was too bright and I turned it off. I stood in the dark. I opened the refrigerator and stared at the contents for a long time without seeing them. I'd been shopping less. I'd been eating less. The fridge was mostly empty. Some takeout containers, some old milk, some things that might have been vegetables once. I closed the door. I went back to the couch. I didn't turn on the TV. I just sat in the dark. And I thought about Frank. I thought about Frank knowing my brother. I thought about Frank seeing my wife for 5 years whenever she came in for eye exams. I thought about Frank having a reason, some reason, any reason. What if they knew each other? What if they were friends, more than friends? What if Sarah had a reason to keep something secret? I didn't know this woman. That's what kept running through my head. I didn't know her, not completely. Nobody knows anyone completely, but we pretend we do. We stand up in front of people we care about and we make promises that assume complete knowledge. We promise to know someone. We promise to understand them. We promise to love them through knowing them. But you can't promise that. You can't know anyone. I thought about her late evenings at work. She was an accountant. She worked for a mid-sized firm. It made sense that she'd work late sometimes. It made sense that she'd have traffic on the 405. It made sense that she'd want to drive alone. Or it didn't. Or it did and it didn't at the same time. I went to the bedroom. I stood in the doorway for a long time. The bed was still unmade. The book was still there. The nightstand was empty now. No glasses. But there was a lamp. There was a clock. There was a photo frame. I picked up the photo frame. It was from our wedding. We were young. Younger than we were at the end. Sarah was wearing white. She was smiling at the camera like she'd just heard a joke. Her arm was linked through mine. I was looking at her. Not at the camera. Not even at whoever was taking the picture. Just at her. How many times had I looked at this photo without really seeing it? I put the frame down. I went through her nightstand drawers. A normal thing to do. A reasonable thing to do. My wife. My nightstand too, technically, just to check, just to see. There was nothing, nothing unusual. A sleep mask, some lip balm, a book. Office. I went through the kitchen office, I went through the kitchen drawers. I didn't know what I was looking for. I went through her phone charger. I went through the bag she used to take to work. There was nothing. And that was worse. Nothing secret, nothing hidden. Which meant that the secret wasn't in the things I could find. It was in the glasses. Frank called me at 3:47 p.m. the next day. I know the exact time because I was staring at my phone. I'd been staring at it for hours, checking for messages, checking the time, checking to see if time was still moving or if I'd gotten stuck somewhere. "They're ready," he said. "Okay," I said. "You need to come in right now, not tomorrow, now, and you need to come alone." "Frank." "Alone," he repeated. "Nobody else knows about this, and nobody else can know. Do you understand?" My hands were shaking. I could feel it. My hands were actually physically shaking. "I understand," I said. "There's a back room. When you come in, I'm going to lock the front door. We're going to go to the back room, and I'm going to show you what your wife did." The line went dead. I got in my car. I drove to Clarity Optics. I obeyed a lot of traffic laws. I don't remember driving. I remember the destination arriving. The shop was closed. Frank was inside. He'd flipped the sign to closed, and he was standing in the middle of the floor like he was waiting for an execution. He looked worse than yesterday. He looked like he hadn't slept. His eyes were red. His shirt had something on it. It might have been coffee. It might have been blood. I got out of the car. I walked toward the door. He unlocked it for me. As soon as I was inside, he locked it again. He put his hand on my elbow, not aggressive, but firm, guiding. We walked toward the back room. "I need you to understand something," he said. "I've spent a lot of time thinking about what to do. I've thought about not telling you. I've thought about destroying these and never saying anything, but you came in. She came back to me through you, and that meant I had to do something." "Do what?" I said. "Tell you the truth." The back room was small. There was a workbench with various optical equipment. There was a computer. There was a stool. Frank gestured for me to sit. I sat. He put Sarah's glasses on the desk in front of me. "Your wife," he said, "was one of the most brilliant people I've ever met." I didn't say anything. "She came in here about 3 years ago. She had a problem. She needed something specific. She needed a way to record video, high quality, covert. She needed to hide it somewhere that nobody would look, somewhere that would be on her at all times, somewhere that wouldn't trigger any suspicion." I looked at the glasses. "We worked on it together," Frank said. "She designed it. She brought me schematics. I built the hardware. The lens has a micro camera in it, virtually undetectable. The video streams directly to a secure server. There's also audio. A bone conduction microphone along the frame. Everything encrypted. Everything backed up." I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I couldn't do anything but sit and stare at the glasses. "Why?" I said. "She never told me," Frank said. "She just said she needed insurance. She said she needed evidence. I asked her what she was trying to prove. She said that some things couldn't be questioned later if they were on video." "Evidence of what?" "I don't know. I never looked at the files. That wasn't our agreement. She paid me in cash, $50,000. I built the system. She used it. That was the end of our arrangement." "Is that why she's dead?" I said it like I was asking about the weather, like I was making conversation. Inside, something was ripping. Inside, I was screaming. "I don't know," Frank said. "That's why I called you today." He opened a drawer. He pulled out a cord. He connected the glasses to the computer. The screen flickered to life. When she died, this system stopped transmitting. But everything was backed up. Everything is still here. I've had 2 years to decide what to do with this information, and I decided to wait until someone came in with her glasses, until someone came looking for her, and then I would show them. He clicked on a folder. Files appeared, hundreds of them, video files, audio files, all labeled with dates and times, going back 3 years. "These are all the recordings," he said, "every single day, every single moment, her entire secret life. It's all here." He moved the cursor over the files. The dates climbed. 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago. "The last recording," he said, "is from the day she died, the same day. The timestamp is 6:43 p.m. That's 4 minutes before the accident. He clicked on it. The screen bloomed with video. Sarah was sitting in her car. The video was from her perspective. It was the dashboard view. She was crying. Her face was streaked with tears. Her hands gripped the steering wheel so hard that her knuckles were white. "I can't do this anymore," she was saying. "I can't keep living like this. I can't keep the weight of this secret. It's going to kill me anyway." Then there was something else. A sound. Another voice, coming from the phone pressed against her ear. A man's voice. "Don't do this," the voice said. "You don't understand what's at stake." "I understand exactly what's at stake," Sarah said. "My husband, my marriage, my entire life, built on a lie, built on evidence I have, built on proof that everything we have is built on corruption and theft and deception. If you go public with this—" "You're my father," she said, and her voice broke. "You're supposed to be my father, and you've been lying to me for my entire life." The video continued. There was arguing, there was crying, and then there was the sound of a horn, a loud horn, tires screaming, and then nothing. The video went white, and it stayed white. Frank paused the video. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I couldn't do anything but sit and stare at that white screen. "Your wife," Frank said slowly, "had a secret. She had a father, not the man she grew up with. A different father. And that father was involved in something big enough that she felt the need to record everything, something big enough that it was the last conversation she ever had." "My wife's name was Sarah," I said. My voice was different. It sounded like someone else's voice. "My wife's name was Sarah, and I didn't know her at all." I drove home in silence. The radio was off. The car was silent except for the sound of the tires. Every red light felt personal, like the universe was telling me to stop. Like the universe was saying there was still time. You can still turn back. You can still unknow this. But I couldn't. I got home. I went to the office. I opened the computer. I tried to log into her email. Her password was something generic, something I'd seen her type 1,000 times. Sarah John 2008. Sarah and John. Our names. The year we met. The email opened. I didn't know what I was looking for. I scrolled through thousands of emails, emails about work, emails about tax returns, emails about our mortgage, emails about her mother, emails about books she wanted to read. And then, an email from an address I didn't recognize. A long email address with numbers, the kind of email address designed to be untraceable. The subject line was, "He knows. I'm going to tell him everything." The email was dated 3 days before she died. I opened it. I can't keep doing this. It started. I can't keep lying to him. I can't keep pretending that our marriage is built on truth when it's built on deception. He deserves to know who I am. He deserves to know where I come from. He deserves to know what my family has done. I kept reading. I've been recording everything, every conversation with you, every transaction, every proof of what you've been doing. I have it all, and I'm going to take it to the authorities, I'm going to take it to the media, I'm going to take it to someone who will listen, because this is bigger than our family. This is bigger than my marriage. This is bigger than my life. And then there was more, much more. Details about her father, about his business, about embezzlement, about fraud, about shell companies and offshore accounts and money laundering, about thousands of people whose retirement funds had disappeared into her father's pockets, about a conspiracy that went up and up and up. I read for 3 hours. I didn't move except to turn the page. I read about a woman I had been married to for 7 years and didn't know at all. I read about her fear. I read about her guilt. I read about her pain. I read about the fact that she'd been planning to leave me. "I can't stay with him," the email said. "It's not fair to him. He'll be implicated. He'll be questioned. His life will be destroyed. He's better off if I disappear. If I start over. If I take all of this information and start a new life somewhere, he can't find me." The last email in the chain was dated the day she died. "I'm going to do it tonight. I'm going to tell him everything. And then I'm going to leave. Whatever happens after that, at least he'll know the truth. At least he'll understand that I didn't leave because I didn't love him. I left because I loved him enough to protect him from what comes next." That was it. That was her last email. I sat in front of the computer and I couldn't move. I couldn't think. I couldn't do anything but stare at the words. My wife was going to leave me. My wife was in witness protection, or planning to be. My wife had evidence of massive fraud. My wife had secrets. My wife had an entire other father, another identity, another life that had nothing to do with me. And she crashed her car at 6:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, 4 minutes after a phone call with the man she called her father. "If you go public with this," he had said, "you don't understand what's at stake." What was at stake? Everything. Her life, my life, the life we'd built together. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't sleep the next night. I went back to Frank's shop. I made him give me the files, all of them. I sat in my car in the parking lot and I listened to my wife. I heard her voice. I heard secrets. I heard her talking about me. "He's a good man," she said in one recording. "That's the worst part. He's a good man and I'm deceiving him, and I have to. Because if he knows, he becomes a target. Because if he knows too much." I listened to her talking to her father, her real father, Thomas Whitmore, a man whose name I'd heard maybe 3 times in my entire marriage, a man she claimed was distant, a man I'd met twice at holiday gatherings where he'd seemed cold and distant. Of course he was cold and distant. He was a criminal. He was someone who had orchestrated the largest Ponzi scheme in Nevada state history. He'd stolen over $300 million. And my wife had evidence of all of it. And then she had a car accident, and nobody ever knew. I called the police. I told them that I believed my wife's death was not an accident. I told them that I had evidence. I told them about the recordings. I told them about the emails. I told them about Thomas Whitmore and the fraud. They brought me to a precinct. They sat me in an interview room. They gave me coffee that tasted like it had been made in 1987. They asked me questions. I answered them. I told them about the glasses. I told them about Frank. I told them everything. The detective's name was Morris. He was older. He had the look of someone who had heard many stories and believed very few of them. He listened. He took notes. He didn't interrupt. When I was done, he sat back in his chair. He laced his fingers together. He stared at me. "Do you understand," he said, "what you're accusing your wife of?" "No," I said. "What do you mean?" "You're saying she was part of a conspiracy. You're saying she had evidence of fraud. You're saying she was planning to go to the authorities, and then you're saying her father, the man perpetrating this fraud, was on the phone with her when she had a fatal accident." "Yes," I said. "Do you see how that sounds?" "Like murder," I said. "Like a theory," he said. "Do you have any physical evidence, any proof, any indication other than an email that your wife wrote to someone saying she was going to do something?" "The recordings," I said. "The video, the evidence on those glasses, which were built by a repair shop owner, who is a friend of your brother's, who you've known for years, who could have made them at any time." I didn't say anything. "I'm going to be honest with you," Detective Morris said. "Your wife's car was hit by an SUV that ran a red light. The driver of that SUV was a 63-year-old woman named Patricia Valdez. She had a stroke while driving. She lost control of her vehicle. She hit your wife's car and killed your wife instantly. Ms. Valdez died at the scene. We had witnesses. We had security camera footage. It was an accident." "It wasn't an accident," I said. "I understand that you're grieving," he said. "I understand that you're looking for reasons, for someone to blame, for something that makes sense. But sometimes things don't make sense. Sometimes life is just random. Sometimes people die for no reason that we can accept. My wife was going to expose her father for fraud, and then she died. That's not random." "No," he agreed. "That's coincidence. That's terrible, unlucky coincidence. But coincidence isn't evidence." I left the police station. I sat in my car for an hour. I couldn't start the engine. I couldn't drive. I couldn't do anything. The detective was right. I was grieving. I was looking for reasons. But the reasons I found didn't make sense. They didn't slot together. Because if Sarah's father had her killed, he was a professional. He was someone with resources. And he wouldn't be stupid enough to do it in a way that left obvious evidence. Unless he wanted me to find this information. Unless he wanted me to believe that Sarah's death wasn't an accident. Unless he wanted me to doubt everything. I started the car. I drove home. I opened the computer again. I went back through the emails. I went back through every single piece of evidence, and I looked for inconsistencies. I found them. The emails were perfect, too perfect. They read like a screenplay. They had emotional beats. They had escalation. They had exactly the kind of tension that would convince someone reading them that they were real. The recordings were high quality, professional quality. The kind of quality that wouldn't come from a hidden camera in glasses. The kind of quality that would come from someone who knew exactly what they were doing, who knew exactly what they were filming. The video of Sarah in her car, her face, her tears, the timing of it all. It didn't feel like reality. It felt like a story someone had constructed. And I knew who had constructed it. I went back to Frank's shop on a Saturday morning. He was alone. He opened the door for me like he was expecting me. "You figured it out," he said. It wasn't a question. "You made them," I said. "All of it. The emails, the recordings, the story, all of it." "Sarah and I made them," he said. "Together." I felt the world shift. I felt reality reorganize itself around different facts. "She came to me," Frank said, 3 years ago. "She said that she wanted to disappear. She wanted to leave you. She wanted to leave her life. But she didn't want you to grieve. She didn't want you to go through the kind of pain that comes with sudden abandonment. So she asked me to help her create a narrative." "A narrative," I repeated. "A story," he said. "A story that would explain her disappearance in a way that made sense, in a way that would be sad but understandable, in a way that meant she didn't have to feel guilty about leaving you, and you wouldn't have to feel abandoned." "She didn't die," I said. "No," he said. "She's alive, somewhere, living a different life, using a different name, living free from the person she was." My hands were shaking. "Why are you telling me this?" I said. "Because she died," Frank said. 2 months ago, in real life, of cancer. She was 53 years old, and before she died, she made me promise to do something. She made me promise that if you ever came in with her glasses, I would show you the truth, because she wanted you to know at the end that she didn't die in an accident. That she chose to leave," I said. "That she chose freedom," Frank said. "That she loved you but not enough to stay." I looked at him. I looked at this man who had known my wife, who had helped her betray me, who had carried this secret for years. "Where is she?" I asked. "I can't tell you that," he said. "That was the promise. The only way to honor her memory is to keep that secret. But I can tell you that she was happy. For a few years, she was happy." "And then the cancer," I said. "And then the cancer," he confirmed. I need to pause here. In this story, I'm telling you, because what I've described to you is not what happened. Not exactly. Because there's something else, something I found after I found out the truth from Frank, something I found when I went back home and I really looked, not just at her emails or her recordings, but at her computer, deep in the folders, in places where she'd hidden things from Frank, from everyone. There was a video file, a single video file, dated 3 years ago, on the same day that Sarah came to Frank with her request. It was titled, "The Real Truth." I watched it. It was Sarah. She was sitting in our bedroom. She was alone. She was crying. "If you're watching this," she said to the camera, "then Frank told you everything, and I need you to know that every word of it was a lie. I didn't breathe. There is no disappearance," she said. "There is no escape. There is no happy life somewhere else." I made that story. I asked Frank to help me tell that story, but not for the reason he thinks. She wiped her face. "My father really is Thomas Whitmore," she said, "and he really did orchestrate the fraud, and I really do have evidence, and I really was planning to go to the authorities, but then he found out. And he told me that if I did, he would kill you. Not in an accident, not subtly. He would kill you and make sure that I knew it was his doing." She took a shaky breath. "So I made a deal with him. I would disappear. I would leave you. I would start a new life, and in exchange, you would be safe. He promised me that if I left, he wouldn't touch you, that I'd give him freedom from prosecution by vanishing, by being the only witness he cared about." She looked directly at the camera, directly at me. But I don't trust him. So I created this fake narrative, this story about escapism and freedom. I asked Frank to help me, because I knew that Frank would eventually crack. Frank would eventually feel guilty, and he would tell you everything. And you would come to doubt the real truth. You would come to doubt whether I was ever really in danger. You would come to doubt whether your father-in-law is really a threat. She stood up. She walked to the window. By the time you see this, one of two things has happened. Either I'm dead, possibly from the stroke or the cancer or something else, and if I'm dead, you need to know that it wasn't natural. It might look natural, but it wasn't. Thomas Whitmore kills people, and he kills them carefully. Or, she said, turning back to the camera, he got impatient. He got tired of waiting. And he killed me anyway. And he made it look like an accident. And now you're here. And you're trying to figure out what's real and what's not real. And whether anything I've told you, even in this video, is even true. She sat back down. The honest answer is that I don't know. I don't know if he'll kill me. I don't know if I should believe him. I don't know if the story I told Frank will protect you or endanger you. I don't know anything anymore. I just know that I love you, and that I'm sorry, and that I'm probably not going to see you again, and that this is the closest I can get to a goodbye. The video ended. I stared at the black screen. I didn't move. I didn't think. I didn't do anything. Then I got in my car. I drove to Frank's shop. It was closed. The door was locked. There was a sign that said the shop had permanently shut down. There was an address for a forwarding optometrist. I sat in the parking lot. I called every hospital in the city looking for Sarah. I called her parents. I called her mother's sister. I looked through every social media account I could think of. I checked the DMV records. I looked everywhere. I found nothing. And I realized what had happened. The video wasn't real. It was another story, another narrative, another piece of a puzzle that never completed itself. Because the worst thing about grief isn't the loss. The worst thing is the not knowing. The worst thing is being left with a person who is both alive and dead, both real and unreal, both the woman you married and a complete stranger. My wife died on a Tuesday in a car accident, or she ran away, or she's watching me from somewhere I'll never find her, or none of this is real, and I made it all up, and I've been insane the entire time. I hired a private investigator. His name was Gary. He was ex-FBI. He looked at all the evidence. He looked at the videos. He looked at the emails. He looked at the timeline. He told me the same thing Detective Morris told me. It was an accident. Your wife died in a car accident. The driver of the other car was an elderly woman who had a stroke. There's no evidence of conspiracy. There's no evidence of murder. There's only the evidence of a woman I married who I never understood. Sometimes people have secret lives, Gary told me. Not because they're hiding something dangerous, but because they're hiding something from themselves. She was probably unhappy. She probably was considering leaving. But that doesn't mean the accident wasn't an accident. I paid him and sent him away. I went back to the videos. There's one more piece of evidence, one more thing I found, the last thing, the thing that changed everything. I found Sarah's diary, not a physical diary, a digital one, encrypted. It took me weeks to crack the password. The password was simple. It was John Sarah, 2015. John and Sarah, the year we got married. She wanted me to find it. In the diary, she wrote about falling in love with me. She wrote about our wedding day. She wrote about believing for a moment that she could be happy, that she could escape her father, that she could be a normal person with a normal life. Then her father found her. She wrote about his visits, his threats, his control. She wrote about the moment he told her that if she didn't disappear, he would kill me. She wrote about asking Frank for help. She wrote about creating the fake narrative. She wrote about planning her escape. But then she wrote something else. I'm not going to run. She wrote, I'm going to stay, I'm going to face him, I'm going to take my evidence to the authorities, because John deserves the truth, even if it's a truth that scares him, even if it's a truth that endangers him. He deserves the right to choose, and I've been making his choices for him. I've been deciding what he should fear, what he should know, what he should accept. The last diary entry was dated the day she died. I'm going to tell him tonight. I'm going to tell him everything. And then we'll figure out what comes next. Together. Whatever the consequences are, at least we'll face them together. That's it. That's the last thing she wrote. And I want to believe it. I want to believe that my wife was brave enough to tell me the truth, that she was going to face her father, that she was going to face the consequences of her choices. But I don't know if that's true, because I never got to hear her tell me. She died before she could say a single word. And now I'm left with stories, versions of a woman, possibilities that might or might not be real. I lie awake at night and I wonder if she's alive somewhere. I wonder if she's reading this, if she's watching, if she's thinking about me the way I'm thinking about her. Or I wonder if she's dead. If she's been dead the whole time, if everything I found was planted by someone who wanted me to doubt reality, or I wonder if I'm insane, if I created all of this, if the glasses, the videos, the emails, the diary, if I made all of it up because grief was too large to contain, because loss was too real to accept. And maybe that's the only truth. Maybe the only real thing is that my wife is gone, and I don't know her, and I never will. 3 days ago, I received a package, no return address, just a box. Inside was a single item, a pair of glasses, not Sarah's glasses, different frames, but the same micro camera system, the same recording setup, the same technology that Frank had described, and inside the glasses was a memory card. I connected it to my computer. There was a single video file. I pressed play. It was Sarah. She was older. She looked tired, but she was alive. She was sitting in a room I didn't recognize. She was looking directly at the camera. "Hi," she said. And I fell apart. "I know you're confused," she said. "I know you've found a lot of stories, and you don't know which one is true. I'm here to tell you that they're all true, and none of them are true. They're all just different ways of understanding the same terrible reality." She shifted. She looked away. She looked back. "I did run away," she said. "And I did fake my death. Not to you directly. But I did create that narrative with Frank, because I needed to disappear, and I needed you to understand why I couldn't say goodbye. But I also didn't completely lie. My father really is dangerous, and I really am scared of him. And I really do have evidence. Those parts are all true." She took a breath. "What's also true is that I missed you. Every single day. I've been alive for years, living in Portland, working under a different name, building a life without you. And I've hated it. I've hated being alive and not being able to share it with you." Her eyes were wet. "So I did something crazy. I did something dangerous. I came back. I'm back in California. I'm back where you are. And I need to know something." She leaned forward. "Do you hate me? For leaving? For lying? For disappearing? Or is there any part of you that still loves me? Any part of you that wants to see me again?" The video cut out. I stared at the black screen. I didn't move. I didn't think. I didn't do anything. Then I got in my car. I drove to Frank's shop. It was closed. The door was locked. There was a sign that said the shop had permanently shut down. There was an address for a forwarding optometrist. I sat in the parking lot. I called every hospital in the city looking for Sarah. I called her parents. I called her mother's sister. I looked through every social media account I could think of. I checked the DMV records. I looked everywhere. I found nothing. And I realized what had happened. The video wasn't real. It was another story, another narrative, another piece of a puzzle that never completed itself. Because the worst thing about grief isn't the loss. The worst thing is the not knowing. The worst thing is being left with a person who is both alive and dead, both real and unreal, both the woman you married and a complete stranger. My wife died on a Tuesday, or she ran away, or she's watching me from somewhere I'll never find her, or none of this is real. And I made it all up, and I've been insane the entire time. The only truth I know for certain is that the woman I loved is gone, and I don't know her, and I never did. And maybe that's the only thing we can ever really say about the people we love. We don't know them. We just hope we do.